You have sites too?
Well, I made 7
Good morning,
slides.
everybody.
I made one.
Because I don't really have a whole lot to say.
Good morning.
I made one, so I have even less to say.
Wow, you guys actually got up. When we saw how many people at RSVP, we were kind of joking amongst ourselves. Maybe we didn't know if everybody would show up, but you guys did. So thank you for taking the time to show up. I am City Councilman David Howard. I am going to host us today, and we have a number of technology things we're dealing with. But if we can throw at least the PowerPoint up, Wendy, first, and start running through the slide, and we'll figure out how to get our friend from Barcelona. There we go. So good morning. Welcome to the first of what I'm calling ReThinkCLT Salon. The first one is around one subject matter, but I'll tell you that over the next couple of months, I plan to have several of them around ideas that I think about, ideas that I think will move the city forward, ideas that I think will make Charlotte special, even more so than it is today. And in order to do that, I need to have a community conversation. It's not one that I can have on my own. So thank you guys for coming out to be a part of it. So first slide. So housekeeping, just so we can make sure everybody knows what we're doing. If you go out the door past the table where you were earlier, somebody can direct you to a restroom. And although we're talking about mobile technology, this is not the time to have your phone not on vibrate. So if you could do that for me, I would appreciate it. You're welcome to have them out. Tweet, please. Tweet, please. But at least turn it on vibrate for me so we don't, we're not disturbed. Hashtag. The hashtag is at the top of the screen. It'll be on every slide. It's ReThinkCLT. ReThinkCLT. So if you want to pull out Twitter and start doing that, that's how I would love for you to follow us. And then hopefully you've had a chance to go to the beginnings of what we're putting together for a website, and that is ReThinkCLT.com. If you go to that website today, right now, you'll see information about this event, but what I intend for it to be is information about all the subject matters that we plan to pursue going forward. So what is ReThinkCLT anyway, other than something that David Howard thought up some months ago? I can tell you that since I've been elected, I've had an opportunity to visit a few places abroad. I've had an opportunity to interact with people at all levels. And just the DNC itself was a life-changing experience for me. But what I've come away with are ideas about what can make Charlotte special, not over the next couple of years, and not over even my term in office, but over the next 50 years. It's my take on it that we didn't get to be the second largest financial center in the country by mistake. Those things took time. Mr. McCall and all the other folks that came before us in that industry did a lot of things to make sure that Charlotte was positioned to be exactly where it is today. So what is that? I can tell you that doing this job part-time, at least that's what they tell us it is. That was a joke, y'all, come on. I can tell you that showing up and spending all the time that I do on this would not be worth it if I'm not doing something to move the needle. If I'm not doing something, I can't just show up for meetings and be a council member. It needs to be something more to that, and that's what Rethink is for me. And so we plan to have a series of meetings, but ReThinkCLT will be much more than that. Hopefully when you go to the website in the future, there'll be blogs from other members of the community. There'll be information about other things that I've seen and things that I want to share with the community. So if you want to follow us on that, that'd be great. Now, one of the things I'm smart about is that I knew I couldn't do this by myself. So I engaged a group of friends, and they let me call them a kitchen cabinet. And we started meeting sometime back in January, and I've been kind of bugging them every month. All it took was buying them lunch every month, and they showed up. But just to run down those names, Kelly Alexander Jr., Representative Kelly Alexander Jr., Lisa Crawford, who's in the back, Jennifer Daniels, who's in the room, if you guys throw your hands up, Deava Glenn, Tori Jessup, Sean Kinley, Tracy Montross, Betty Rash, Donald Robinson, and Noel Ten. So those are the folks that actually made me look great today. In addition to the city staff who's supporting us as well, and I'm sure Alvin's not in the room, but Alvin and Kim and the rest of the team have been helping us out, as well as great folks from corporate communications and the Gov channel. So why Barcelona? And I'm supposed to have a wireless mic, but I guess I don't have one, because it's going to be hard to stand behind this podium the whole time. Why Barcelona? So I'm a German Marshall Fellow, which allowed me to go to Europe back in '09. right before I got elected. And actually, somebody just smiled at me. It's because a good friend of mine, Natalie English, did it before me. And I said, Natalie, what is that all about? And I kept up with it, and I got to follow her over there. But what I saw is some amazing things. I think I saw some great ideas that we could bring back to Charlotte. And I'll be honest with you, I've been noodling with this idea of what I saw in Barcelona since I got elected back in '09. And then I learned something about this thing called the Mobile World Capital along the way. And I started thinking, man, what is that about? Add to that, we had the DNC here, and we heard about all the infrastructure that was put in place by my good friends at Time Warner, my friends at AT&T, and others to make sure that we were ready for the DNC. And all of a sudden, that connecting started happening for me. If you guys ever read Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point, I'm that classic connector, so I'm always connecting dots. And for me, what I thought about is, wow, it would be really cool if Charlotte could follow Barcelona down that line of being the next mobile world capital. Now, I've learned a lot about what it takes to be that since then, and we're going to talk about that this morning. But it was still a cool idea. And basically what it was is that Barcelona has decided that it wants to be the most mobilely connected community in the world. And that's the way Charlotte has to start thinking. So just to get some interaction going this morning, tell me just out loud, what have you done on this thing since you got up this morning? Everything, right? You checked your email, you tweeted, you're tweeting right now. Come on, hashtag ReThinkCLT. You checked your schedule. You probably checked traffic to get here on time. You had to. Perfect. What else did you do on this? Come on, talk out. Paid my bills. Paid your bills. There you go. We're going to talk about that some more. Who else? What else did you do on this?
Listen to music.
Listen to music. Very important function of this. My point to you is that you get it. We do a lot on these handheld devices already. And what the folks in Barcelona and the guys sitting at this table, they've been smart enough to start talking about what do we do to take advantage of this. And Barcelona's decided that they want to do it better than anybody else in the country. So next slide. The world, sorry. So to start out, we're going to start with our friend from Barcelona, and there's Laurence up there in the screen. She's waving at you guys right now. Wave back, she can see you on the camera. And she's going to talk to us for a few minutes. Laurence, I'm not going to read all the bios because we'll be here all morning, and I want to get you out on time, but the bios are in front of you. She's a manager for the Mobile World Capital efforts in Barcelona. And if we can make her just a little bigger, well, I guess we can't do too big because we got to see your slides, Laurence. We'll put you back up in the corner. All right, so now we're going to start cycling through your presentation. So if you guys will direct your attention to our friend from Barcelona, she's going to give you a few slides and talk to you about what they're doing in Barcelona. I think we're going to start with actually a video. So which video first, Laurence?
The one called TCC.
Okay, here we go.
Two of them.
Make us better. We want to make it happen. That's why our International Competence Centers program focuses on the use of mobile technology to address 3 different global challenges in order to change and improve our quality of life. At mHealth, we promote the use of services and solutions based on mobile technology to professionals and patients, enabling integrated mHealth solutions, offering test beds for the mobile industry, promoting health prevention, and educating people on healthy lifestyles. Reducing costs for the health system through mHealth solutions adoption and deployment, developing initiatives such as medication adherence and mobile prescription, giving the patients access to updated and organized information, promoting the adoption towards the solutions based on mobile technology. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be monitorized. M-Schools is a multi-faced initiative to change the future through education. 1 program, 3 focus areas. Encouraging learning with mobile technology, new and better digital skills, entrepreneurial spirit, open educational environment. Change the rules, change the tools, change the future. Smart Cities Initiative is transforming Barcelona into a self-sufficient, hyper-connected, and zero-emission city. Business-friendly, sustainable, thriving. We are sure that life can be better, easier, and smarter if we are able to integrate mobile technology. Let us prove it. Rediscover Barcelona. www.mobileworldcapital.com.
One more video. By the way, while she's doing that, you got cards in front of you. You have questions. If you write the questions down, we're going to try to put them all together shortly. One more video.
The secret of getting ahead is getting started. That's why our Entrepreneurship and Innovation program wants to boost the entrepreneurial movement. We care, and we can. A new way of allying entrepreneurship and innovation that consolidates Mobile World Capital Barcelona into a benchmark in global mobile innovation and the best place to start a new mobile business. From local to global, from global to local. We need to expand the M community, a large group of people who share the same vision and values about mobile revolution. Change and update the entrepreneurial attitude of the new generations. We want young people to be ambitious, creative, and conscious. Action speaks louder than words, and we know how to do it. Gaining a mobile entrepreneurial attitude, consolidating the mobile community, finding people who have innovative assets, creating platforms, promoting mobile solutions, scaling businesses, developing new markets. It's about building mobile ideas and startups.
Okay, Laurence, we're going to go to your first slide. Take over.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very, very much for having me today. It's a pleasure to see you even virtually here from Barcelona. My name is Laurence, and I've spent over 10 years in the United States, and I'm French and American, living now in the United States and working for the GSMA and having the great pleasure of working on this project called the Mobile World Capital. So very briefly, I want to share some thoughts as to how we've been going through this. The GSMA has had this idea and vision that there should be a place or could be a place that could be called the Mobile World Capital, a place that would be different and would really embrace mobile technology as a way to change its future. We ran a bid and a contest, and in 2011, Barcelona won that bid. And with that bid came a few assets and a few liabilities, if you will. The first asset was, of course, getting an event hosted in the city called the Mobile World Congress, which John will talk to you about. And it's the largest and best B2B event in the industry. But also came the pledge to change the future of the city using mobile technology and really to become the Mobile World Capital. We knew going in any city in the world that maybe there's no definition, maybe there's no city today that's the Mobile World Capital, but a little bit like the Olympics. I truly believe that no city in the world is hosting the Olympics at the time it gets to win them. Usually there's 8, 9, sometimes longer in between, and that's why the Mobile World Capital was in 2011 a vision and a commitment. And at the bottom of the slide, you will see some of the funding partners with which we've pledged, if you will, to work with Barcelona to become the Mobile World Capital. And those are, you may not know them, but those are the political entities in Spain. This is the Spanish government, the City Hall of Barcelona, the region of Catalonia. The Fira de Barcelona is the event organizer in the city, and the GSMA is the Association of the Mobile Industry and Operators that I work for. Next. So as we started this road, a lot of times we spent trying to define what the Mobile World Capital would be. And frankly, it's very, very difficult. We have a very pretty logo, which we designed. We had a vision, we had some desires, but I don't think there's one definition in the world. So we settled with the idea that the mobile work capital is a movement that is not owned by one person or one entity, but it's a shared vision for collective action based on two beliefs. The first belief is that mobile technology can improve people's lives in many different areas. And the second is that mobile technology is an economical growth engine, and that's what it does. And in the context of Spain, particularly in 2011, in the context of Europe and the crisis, this is very important beliefs that has to be shared by all the people that are working on those projects. This is a non-negotiable, if you will. I mean, this is what we decide as groups and entities are minimum requirement to get started. Next. Next slide. And I'm not sure if you're seeing my slides or not.
We're trying to cycle through.
Okay, no worries. So as this starts, we had to, for the last few years, decide in which way to get started. And we spent, I want to say, an enormous amount of time deciding, if you will, this word called strategy. What is our strategy? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And in the end, we decided to kind of focus on certain areas that are important to Spain. They may not be the same areas in different countries, and certainly different countries have different levels of maturity. But the first area clearly is around entrepreneurship and innovation. And you just saw a little video that describes our programs, our aspirations here. And there are three things that are, if you will, challenges here. The first one is the attitude of young people, in the sense of a very low desire to take risk, to be entrepreneurial, and maybe to do differently than their parents. I've lived in America, and I know how strong those values of entrepreneurship and risk are. And it was quite a surprise coming back to Spain and seeing with 56% youth unemployment, really a country and people that probably never quite had this beautiful thing that you find in America, which is this entrepreneurial spirit and can-do attitude. The second challenge is to address the problem of scale. Barcelona has startups, has lots of creativity, but certainly they've never, or not a lot of them have scaled globally. And so we've set up a number of programs for this. And if you scale, then of course, then we try to tackle the problems of growth and availability of venture capital. Next. The second area that we decided to focus on is what we call mobile transformation, a lot of our smart living. Again, different in different countries, but in Spain, the government has a fair amount of responsibilities regarding certain areas that impact the lives of citizens. And with responsibilities that come a certain amount of control as well. So in the areas of healthcare, we are able to try to influence and accelerate the adoption of mobile technology, which we believe, again, improves patients' outcomes. In the areas of education, we are able to work with the government and roll out programs in the curriculums for children to improve their learning outcomes and what we call their digital skills, which we believe leads to better employment. And the other area is smart living, which can be many things in different countries and different places. But in Barcelona, we are settling in the areas of retail because it's a highly touristic country. Tourism, which is more to do with museum and culture, as well as the transport systems. You could call this area as well smart city, I personally do not love the word smart city because it means so many things to different people, and I like the idea of picking sectors and the whole of it being smart city. Next. The last kind of pillar of our work is around what we call citizen engagement or movement engagement, is the ability to create what we call tribes of willing people working together and put some form of organization of citizen engagement. Citizen engagement is not only good because it's the right thing to do, but it's also good for business. Because by engaging citizens in using better or more, better, differently, mobile technologies, we're able to create demand for the private industry. And creating demand is, again, creating a set of early adopters in the city, which then boosts the acceleration of the deployment of mobile technologies. We obviously have programs communicating to, if you will, citizens. We also have a set of events that are either wide or just for certain communities, it is okay. And the last thing is we have a physical space, which is the Mobile World Center in partnership with the Spanish operator.
We knew we would run into a glitch at some point, so give us a second. So when we get the technology right, this won't be a problem. There you are, you're back.
Okay. Next. So I just wanted to briefly share our pillars or our working lines, but I wanted to spend just a little bit of time to leave you with what I have firmly learned over this journey. I've been working in trying to create the Mobile World Capital for the last 5 years, almost now. And I've learned a few things. Some of the basics are that it's actually the journey, not the destination. I know it's a little bit cliche, but I mean it seriously. We have learned a lot. There is no model of what a mobile city looks like. And it's taken a fair amount of trial and error to get there. Often we ask ourselves, can Barcelona be the Mobile World Capital? And why should Barcelona be the Mobile World Capital? And the answer is that it is not meant to be the Mobile World Capital. And to people that say why, they just tell me why not. Why is it not possible that a group of people, politicians and the private industry getting together can make an impact and some change? And the answer is just why not? It is possible, and the mobile industry and technology is rapidly changing, faster than we ever can. WhatsApp was almost not existent when we started this project. There's almost over 500 million users today. So why not is the big question. The other thing I've learned is to pick what you can do and start. We spend too much time talking about strategy, not enough time talking about how we were going to implement. And it doesn't matter what, because the mobile technology is everywhere, impacting every business and everything we do. So pick where you've got the control and start there. The other thing I've learned is that there's a group of people that must commit together and invest something. It can be a little bit of money, it can be some time, but there's nothing that moves without investing something. And we are finding that by investing something, we're able to multiply the effect of our impact by, again, creating a movement and a community behind an idea. The last thing I've learned is that there's no public and private partnership without both sides. And I mean it very strongly. When we started, the private industry was very happy, and we had a lot of meetings, and the public institutions were very happy, and there was a lot of meetings. And we quickly realized that both sides did not necessarily want the same things. Sometimes the private industry wanted to sell to the government, and sometimes the government did not want to buy. And so it's very important to find, again, the areas of agreement without boiling the ocean. And we've been able to find that by being a neutral party in between sometimes the private industry and the public industry, the public partners, we're able to advance certain areas which would have taken much longer otherwise. So both sides are quite important. So those are very briefly, in 10 minutes, some of the things I've learned and what we've tried to do in the Mobile World Capital, and certainly available at the end to take any questions. But I believe it's definitely a journey that's worth taking. It is hard, but it's very much rewarding. So thank you for your time.
Laurence, before we go to the next person, one of the things that I noticed when I was in Barcelona is that Barcelona is extremely serious about two things, being entrepreneurial and being global. How did that play into your selection of Barcelona, and how has that helped you in the implementation of the Mobile World Capital?
Okay, well, I mean, regarding the first point in terms of being serious, yes, it was an absolute critical factor in our decision. When people are able to build coalitions across party lines, across, the political situation is not always the best between Catalonia and Spain, but one thing that can be agreed upon is the Mobile World Capital. That is critical to have a long-term commitment. The other thing is that, of course, we have a contract, and we made commitments in return to those partners. And this contract was signed between 2012 and 2018, and there's just no walking out of it, and that's absolutely critical. In terms of being global, it's very important because the Mobile World Capital must, by definition, be able to be a model, or its experience must be shared for companies to gain scale. We found that there is a place that impacts the territory and can be local, and there are local concerns, and that some of those local concerns can also be global concerns. And it's about finding this intersection of what is important to the territory and also important to the world. And that's what we call being a global product. It's about that exact cross. So a lot of solutions that we will hopefully develop in the healthcare sectors are to be used globally. It's just that we're just put our efforts here locally to make it happen here in the Catalonian system first.
Thank you very much.
Very important.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to transition to our next panelist. So joining Laurence on the panel are these great gentlemen over here. One of them is actually Laurence's boss, but we'll talk to him last. We're going to go to Mark McDowell. If we could put the PowerPoint back up and readjust Laurence over to the corner. Mark and I met when the City Council was invited over to Packard Place. Is Dan in the room? I didn't see Dan come in.
He's here.
He is here. But they're doing some incredible things over at Packard Place. If you haven't been there, you ought to go over to it. But Mark heard me talk about something else I saw in Barcelona and kind of walked over to me, and we started talking, and a lot of what's happening today grew out of that conversation. Mark is actually he made his living in the wireless industry. He's partnering with this agency now, but he's also an angel investor, something that we're getting used to here in Charlotte, and that's folks who actually invest money in certain industries. And Mark has been doing that now for a while in the wireless industry. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and Mark has a few slides, and then we'll move on. So, Mark. Well, you actually have speakers on the
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Thanks, Councilman Howard. No, well, you know, I might stand up. Let me tell you something, if it's not obvious. I think inside Councilman Howard beats the heart of an entrepreneur. This is a man who, he's amazing at listening, extracting, and connecting people and ideas, and then doing something about it. And if you would work on your JavaScript, we could talk about a startup. Yeah, I've spent my entire career, 25 years now, in the wireless industry. I kind of stumbled out of grad school and into the telecommunications world right at the time that it was going digital. In 1989, only doctors and rich people had cell phones, and basically I wanted a cell phone, so I found a way to get a job, in that industry. Over the last 10 years, my business partner and I have been angel investors in early stage companies in the mobile industry. Our thesis has been, we believe that mobile is transforming industries around the world, and we try to get in one step ahead of the transformation and place a bet where we think change is going to happen. And we've done that since 2002. We've invested in over 100 companies, our own personal money. We've taken some of these companies from cradle to IPO. We've taken many of them from cradle to grave, a lot of things in between. I don't know how many people we've employed. I was trying to, over that period of time, probably at least a couple of thousand people have worked in the companies that we've backed. These companies are all over the place. There's some in Charlotte. There's at least one in Barcelona. They tend to be in North America. But I've experienced every flavor of failure and success in this industry, and I'm thrilled to share a few examples. Can you advance the slides, or do I have a, okay. I just wanted to start by talking about where the wireless industry is today. It's hard to say anything that isn't kind of jaded, or that we've already heard a lot of times. There's 5.2 billion cell phones in the world, and there's 7 billion people. That seems like a lot, but actually quite a few people have more than one cell phone. Just show of hands, who has more than one cell phone? So we actually have more room for growth than that number indicates. And there's 5.5 billion TVs in the world, which is disturbing. And I think probably, I would bet everybody in this room has more than one TV. So in a way, cell phones have surpassed TVs in terms of penetration of the global population. 30% of the cell phones in the world are smartphones. When I hear that number, I'm pretty excited because it still means that there's massive growth. And to me, smartphones are what are really transforming the mobile industry today. And most people don't have them yet. Tablets are the fastest growing device in the history of the digital industry. Faster than PCs, faster than laptops, faster than cell phones, faster than smartphones. And I found this stat interesting. If you have a tablet and you're watching TV, there's a 2/3 chance that you're also surfing the web while you're watching TV, and about a 40% chance that you're shopping. So we live in an ADD society. How can we take advantage of it? Next slide. I wanted to say a little bit about the industry. It's a massive global industry, trillions of dollars in gross revenues and market capitalization. From an organizational standpoint, there's 2 organizations that sort of cover all of the players in this industry. In the United States, we have the CTIA, the Cellular, Telephone, and Internet Association. That's essentially an association that includes all of the U.S. wireless carriers, so Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile, and many smaller regional carriers. Incidentally, the former head of that association is now your chairman of the FCC, Tom Wheeler, who's getting a lot of love in the media lately for net neutrality and other issues. The other organization, which is substantially larger, is the GSM Association, of which Mr. Hoffman is a board member and a CEO of one of its major operating groups. That organization includes 800 mobile operators. And I won't say anything else because I'll get it wrong and John will set the record straight. But what I'm really hoping is that John does not aspire to be the chairman of the FCC, but let us know if that's in the cards. But I think that may set the stage for you a little bit about who we are and also John's background as well. Next slide. I don't know if you can see that background graphic, but it's some kind of massive explosion. I thought that was the best image for what I want to convey here. The mobile device is truly a game changer. It's something that has transformed the lives of every single person in this room in the last 10 years or in the last 15 years. The way we live our life minute by minute has been changed by these devices. And why? Why more so than a computer? And I would tell you it's because it's in your pocket, and it's because it's on your nightstand, and it's probably closer than your alarm clock, which is an incredibly intimate device. It's astonishing. Think about what it knows. I just listed a few things here, and then I got freaked out, and I quit writing here. But it knows who all of your friends are. It knows where you are with a high degree of accuracy. It knows your credit card information. It knows your taste in music, in movies, in books, in shopping. And the list is just beginning. I mean, you could sort of take this a little bit further and say, what does this imply for security? When the National Security Agency does these things, we freak out. When the phone company does it, or when Google does it, or when Facebook does it, we seem okay with that. What does it mean for cybersecurity? I mean, when you have so much personal information that could be accessed by parties with malintent, it's a little bit frightening. But be that as it may, I don't think the world's ever going to go backwards. I think this is the world we live in today. But I say it's a game changer because mobile is changing industries in a wholesale format, like that bomb going off. We saw, I think it was 10 years ago this year, when the iPod came out, the music industry has changed absolutely forever by these portable devices and by Apple. The media industry in general has been changed forever. You can't watch a Super Bowl commercial without seeing a call for Twitter, for example, or a Facebook like. The advertising industry is undergoing massive transformation in the form of mobile advertising and social advertising. The banking industry is going to undergo major transformation. It hasn't happened quite as dramatically, but I was impressed that somebody already paid a bill this morning, which reminds me, I think my Verizon bill was due last week and I didn't pay it, but I might use my phone to pay it. Shopping is beginning to change a little bit. We do a lot of showrooming. So we'll go to Best Buy, we'll check out the TVs, and then we'll order from our phone, from Amazon or something like that. But the question I like to ask for myself as an investor and for Charlotte as a community is, okay, what's going to change next? Because why don't we skate to where the puck is going and not to where the puck already is? So I have a few images and ideas I want to share with you. Next slide, please. One that I'm really taken with is the quantified self. You could also call it mobile health, but I think that we're now at the point where we can wear sensors, the Fitbit or the Jawbone Up device, and these sensors can track our heart rate and our number of steps and our sleep patterns throughout the day. Why isn't that information sent directly to your primary care physician? So when you go in for your annual checkup, the doctor can say, you haven't been sleeping as well. Oh, your steps per day has gone dramatically up or dramatically down. One of the companies that we've invested in Montreal is called Ohm Signal. These guys make a shirt that's the first ever biometric smartwear. It actually has a unique fabric. It's a washable shirt, by the way. It's a unique fabric that actually counts your breaths all day long. It measures your pulse and about a dozen other qualities, sends them all to your smartphone. There was a New York Times article last week that said, my shirt told me to take a chill pill. And I do really believe that in the not too distant future, we're going to look back and say, that's crazy. For all those years, all our clothes did was decorate us. Our clothes weren't working for us. They need to be working for us and keeping us healthy. So the mobile device turns out to be the ultimate sensor. It's the sensor of many of our biophysical properties. It's also the gateway that takes this data from our clothing and stores it in the cloud or sends it to our doctor. The mobile device sits in the center of that. Next slide, please. Another area that's a personal passion for me is the education industry. For anybody who's kind of been living in a cave over the last 2 years, the field of education is undergoing dramatic change, both at the K through 12 level and also at the collegiate level. Generally speaking, prices in education are outrageous. The return on investment is not acceptable. Just a general stat that I think many of us are familiar with, the United States has the 4th highest expenditure per student of any developed country in the world. And yet, our performance on international standardized testing places us around 25th to 30th place in various subjects, math, language, and science. So The future of education, without a doubt, to me, is to meet students where they are. And where they are is they are on these devices, just like every one of us. If you want to captivate a student, you meet them on the device that they're already staring at all day long. And that means rethinking the textbook. It's just not enough to hand a kid a heavy $150 paper book. It's also not enough to take that book, scan it, and load it into an iPad. We need to make our curriculum digital and interactive and adaptive. If I'm a slower learner and Aditya is a faster learner, we need to be able to work our way through the material, and the material needs to adjust to our own pace. Why isn't this happening? It's starting to happen, and there's some initiatives out there that I just want to draw everybody's attention to. I'm going to start with Steve Jobs, because every good presentation does these days. I think that every kid in elementary school needs to learn how to code, right? Every single kid, and it should be as fundamental as English language arts. And it's crazy that it's just one day a month, or there's just one teacher, and it's a part-time special that kids get every other Wednesday. It's sinful. And I'm going to put a challenge out there for Charlotte and CMS that we try to tackle this head on. Because the way to get kids to learn and meeting them on the devices that they're using is to start with coding and let them create. And this doesn't have to be hardcore trigonometry. This can be simple drag and drop experiences where kids can develop programs. I'm involved with an organization called edX. It's a $60 million nonprofit joint venture between Harvard and MIT. These two schools have agreed to put all of their classes online for free for anybody in the world, okay? If any of you want to take a class from Harvard or MIT, you can do it right now. Go to edX.org. It's free. You'll be one of 600 or 700 students in the class, but you'll get the exact same lecture, the exact same homework as residential students. This is something that all of us can do today. We can do it in retirement, and high school kids can do it. And they should be able to do it on tablet devices. I guess one other program I'll point out, because I think it would be an interesting model for us here in Charlotte. I'm an investor in a program called Imagine K-12, which is based in Silicon Valley. It's a program that takes in several thousand applications for education technology companies, and they pick about 10 a year, and they run them through a boot camp that lasts for 3 months. And when these companies pop out, they're in the heart of Silicon Valley, and they've been tested by some of the best entrepreneurs in the country, and then they disperse back into the local communities which they've come from. They don't all start in the Valley. They go there for boot camp for 3 months, then they go back to where they came from. But the program there exposes these students to the best work ethics and the best startup practices in the entire world. All right, one more slide. One other area that I just want to touch on here, I don't know if it really has a name, but it's the Internet of Things. It's recognizing that it's not just people that benefit from mobile technology. It's actually machines. And in fact, there's a lot more machines in the world than there are people. So there's amazing growth here. You know, you thought you understood what a thermostat was, and then along come some Apple engineers that start Nest and sell a new thermostat to Google for $3 billion. We have self-driving cars. Your car is a broadband device. It can sense the roads around it and the traffic around it. One that I'm particularly interested in, even though it's kind of boring on the surface, is the smart grid. You know, we haven't really had the smart grid arrive yet, and part of it is that the technology that the utility companies use is very specialized and expensive, ruggedized sensors that they put in the electric utility grid. And these sensors can tell the grid when to slow down, or when to monitor, or when to they call it demand response, when to reduce or increase the demand for energy. My question is, why aren't we putting little, inexpensive, open Android devices in the network? These devices can communicate directly with the cloud. They can go directly into dashboards that you as a homeowner or you as a building manager can control. So the power that we have in our pockets right now that costs $100 or $200 is not being deployed in the smart grid today. And it could be with a massive return on investment for all parties. Okay, the next slide is actually the last one. I think Councilman Howard's timing is just exquisite, because I think we have an opportunity to rethink Charlotte. And I've given you a few examples here. We have B of A, and we have a few other banks in town too. Why?
got Wells too, so.
If Wells as well. Why don't we plant the flag and try to lead the country in mobile commerce? Why doesn't every merchant in Charlotte accept payment by mobile phone? Why doesn't every loyalty and coupon program run on a mobile phone? Why don't we feature this city? When you get in a taxi at the airport, why aren't you flooded with opportunities to pay the taxi driver using your mobile phone? Let's make this a cashless town and show how efficient and amazing mobile technology can be for payments. We have Duke Energy. Why don't we take the lead in the smart grid? Why don't we show how it can be done here in this city and get Duke involved? We have Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, and I think I've mentioned in my bio, I've got 2 elementary school kids in CMS. Why aren't we working, and listen, maybe we are doing some of these things, I'm trying to be provocative, but why aren't we working with CMS to really lead a coherent revolution in digital education? Why isn't Charlotte going to be considered the centerpiece for the whole country to look at? Why aren't we the first major public school system in the country to have mandatory instruction in coding in elementary school? Because we really should. I don't think there would ever be any regrets. We've got the Murdoch Institute in Kannapolis with $1 billion of investment in amazing wet lab facilities and scientific talent. Why don't we take advantage of that opportunity and become a leader in mobile health care and personal fitness and sensors and health and nutrition that come from it? And finally, you know, I don't know if it's Charlotte or Mooresville that's technically Race City, USA.
It's Charlotte.
Why don't we, why aren't we reaching out to Google and say, hey, now that you've cut your teeth in Nevada, we want to be the first city to welcome self-driving cars. And we'll let you come in here and do your micro mapping of every curb and every intersection. But we want to be the place for the smart car. Now, these are meant to be provocative questions. None of them are easy. It's a 50-year plan. But Charlotte is as well suited to address these kind of opportunities as any city in the world, including Barcelona, and I hope we do it.
You see why Mark became one of my best friends real quick. And just as we transition, one of the things that you've heard is that Charlotte's really good about doing what we call vertical industries. We're known for banking, we're known for healthcare, we're known for a number of things, energy, but now we're talking about those horizontal industries that can kind of pull everybody up, and that's what this mobile technology is. Another one of those verticals that we could do, and you just heard Mark talk about it, is the world of mobile payments, mobile commerce. And Aditya is going to talk to us for a few minutes about kind of what he's doing with that. His background has been in mobile technology as well. His wife actually works for Verizon here. And actually, there are microphones on the table, so why don't we try those, unless you want to stand up.
I think I stand up.
He wants to stand up.
It's okay. So thank you, Councilman Howard. And I'm new to Charlotte, so I'm still getting used to speaking slowly, so pardon me. And I'm from India, and I'm from the Northeast, so I have a tendency to go fast like that, like speak fast. So that's my first slide, and that's also my last slide. So hopefully I won't keep you away from John's remarks here. So being new to Charlotte and being new to even to payments and commerce. In fact, I grew up in the technology telecom world. Chip designer by training when I had hair on my head long time ago, working for Bell Labs, built the world's first HDTV chipset for Mitsubishi back in the day. And then I became a telecom guy. We used to say that mobile was the last frontier of telecommunications. That's what we used to say for a long time. And then now that I have lived in the mobile world for many years, and almost everything I know about mobile, I learned from Mark, so thank you. We have known each other for now 10 years. So the key about mobile now, I don't now see it as much as the last frontier. Now I see mobile as the enabling industry. Is the catalyzing force for multiple industries. And I think that's where a recent book I read by Franz Johansson, you should go take a look. It's called The Medici Effect. And the point he makes is very simple. He makes a point that innovation happens at the intersections. Innovation happens at the intersections of industries, at the intersections of cultures, at the intersections of experiences. And that's something I've come to believe in. And especially as I moved to Charlotte here, which is pretty much, as Councilman Howard said, Number 2 in banking and finance. It is the banking finance hub here. And as I have lived in the mobile world and you've heard so much about the wonderful things that mobility brings to us today, I thought about spending just a few minutes on that topic, also because that's where I spend most of my time these days, at the intersection of mobile and money. And I'm new to Charlotte. I'm new to money and commerce. I got into this space, not accidentally, but quite thoughtfully, back in 2008 when we as a large mobile operator decided to get into an adjacency where we could make $1 billion new as a phone company. And back in 2008, we said, where should we go? Where should we invest the money for a phone company to make $1 billion new? And the answer was simple. Let's go eat somebody's lunch. Who's hurting the most right now? I'm being facetious here, but the point is, for an industry like mobile to really expand what the definition of mobile is, you need to look at the adjacent industries. And we are fortunate here to be in a city where there is a lot of talent, diversity in terms of the backgrounds of industries that we have here, just like the last slide that Mark showed here. We have the building blocks of entrepreneurship, which are very critical for risk-taking and for being able to make the investments that people can Mark and make. We have the building blocks here. So back to Laurence's challenge in the beginning, I think the second or third bullet in her final slide, she said, ask why not? And I think Mark started asking that question. I'm going to ask the question, why not? Why not make Charlotte the mobile money capital of the world? I don't think there's any reason why we cannot do that. I think Barcelona is the mobile capital according to the GSMA, and I think that's a great program that we'd love to hear more about. But let us look at Charlotte as making it the mobile commerce, mobile money capital of the world. Why? Because innovation, again, is going to happen at the intersections. And another kind of key theme here I want to talk about is people talk about millennials. Now, why is that important? Why is it important to talk about mobile experiences for the millennials? Because I think the bar is higher. Think about this, right? You paid a bill this morning. How long do you think the utility or whoever bill you paid takes? How long does it take to get the money, you think? Days, hours, weeks? How many people think it is days? Just show of hands. How many people think it is hours? How many people think it is seconds? Most of you are wrong. The reality is, it takes days. And our expectation, as you just saw from the raise of hands, is that it should take seconds. That is the power of technology. That's the power of mobile. That is the expectation. That is the higher bar that mobile consumers now have of every industry. It is a higher bar. It should not take hours and days to move money from point A to B. It should take seconds. And what we have here is a challenge, no matter what industry you're in, is how do you meet and exceed the bar of the mobile generation, the mobile millennials. That is the higher bar we have. And the way we are going to exceed that bar is by using open platforms, open technologies, by using collaborative methods of innovating at the intersections of industries. And that is the challenge before us. And when Councilman Howard talked to me the first time and the second time, and we didn't know what exactly we were going to talk about, I said, you know what, I just make something up. And I'm so glad that you asked me to come stand here for a few minutes, because I think that is the challenge before us. I asked my 14-year-old son to come sit in the back, and I woke him up. I said, come on over, and just come sit. He goes, but Dad, why? I said, because what we are doing here in this room is for you. It's for you. We are building, we are investing, we are talking about where we can go, which is also the spirit in which I said, let me share a couple of things that I do in my daytime and my nighttime, which is, now it's not enough to just talk academically about this. There's no point in just theorizing about intersections and whatnot. Back in the summer of last year, I started writing a blog, just as a pastime, every alternate Sunday, a couple of hours, write something about what I do. I was writing about mobile payments, which is what I've been focused on. And before we knew it, that little blog became the fastest growing mobile news portal in the world. It's called Let's Talk Payments. You can go take a look if you want now. letstalkpayments.com. The reason I bring it up is that just by sharing information about the latest and greatest innovations in money and commerce globally, we were able to build a global community. We are on track to become now #1 globally in terms of where people go to get information about the latest and greatest innovations in commerce, money, shopping, payments, banking, globally. And so what that did is that expanded our view as to what is possible. Because innovation is happening all around the world, not just in the US or not just in Charlotte. And if we are aware of what's happening, then we can be better informed as to what we can do right here in Charlotte or in our day lives. One of the things that happened as a result of that is that the sister organization of the GSMA, the other organization that Mark mentioned, CTIA, said that, they invited me to create an in-person event called the Money Event in their big annual conference in Las Vegas. And I said, if I'm going to live here in Charlotte, I'm going to launch the first event leading up to that right here. So towards the end of the month, we're going to have a little the Money Event Challenge right here in Charlotte, where we are going to have a challenge posed to a few competitors from UNCC and other places to create a new experience using open platforms in the space of mobile and commerce. And so that is something that I feel will be exciting. Again, you can go take a look what that is. But essentially, the focus here is to how do you use technologies, open technologies, to innovate in the field of money and commerce for the mobile generation that has a higher expectation of us. And I look forward to working with you, Councilor Howard, on everything that you have here. It's very inspirational, so thank you.
Before you sit down, yeah, go on. Yeah. He's been a little humble. One of the things that has been really interesting to me across all of these is the play that conventions play in this whole conversation, because it pulls a lot of those business-to-business conversations together, but it pulls a lot of knowledge in the cities. How big is the Money Event now? How many people?
So this is an event that's going to be launching this year. But when we started 2 years ago in this, we had 2,000 people and 1,000 companies. The Super Mobility Week, where the event is going to be held at, is going to have about 40,000, 50,000 people. So it's a very large event where you
Murray,
focus on this topic. Yeah.
It's an industry we can invite people to Charlotte for. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to set this next one up as best I can. So I've been messing around with this World Mobile Capital stuff, like I told you, since I got elected back in 2009. Went to Barcelona and had an opportunity to see some of this stuff on the ground. And as I started to mess with this, and Mark and I started to talk about it, Mark said, well, David, the guy who actually plans that big convention over in Barcelona and has done most of this World Mobile Capital stuff lives in Lake Norman. No, I didn't. So a lot of that industry, and the point that I'm making is that there are a lot of people that live amongst us doing incredible things that we're not taking advantage of. And I'm saying that to my friends at the Chamber, at Ronnie Bryant's group with the Regional Partnership. We got some real talent in the room. As a matter of fact, I'll introduce Brad real quick. Brad, if you'll introduce Brad real quick, Mark. Oh. Come on, stand up. I'm going to put you on display.
I'd like to introduce Brad Davis. Brad was basically the founder and CEO of DukeNet, which many of you know is a major fiber optic systems provider here in Charlotte. It was sold to Time Warner Cable in January. When I started talking to Councilman Howard, I knew I had to put the two of them together. So, Brad, next panel.
Next panel. My point to you is that we have some incredible talent in this community that we're not taking advantage of, mainly because we didn't know you guys were here. But I've already told them now that we know, Nellie, I'm sure there's a panel we can put them on with the Chamber. We're not letting you guys go. So John Hoffman, I knew I would enjoy meeting you, John, when we first sat down. But it was, if you think you've been inspired so far, wait till you hear this man talk about how all of this came to be. And Laurence, I think you would agree with me, since he's your boss, right? Yeah, she's nodding. Kind of his story about kind of how all this came to be. In addition to being in the Charlotte area now since 1995, he's raising his family up in Lake Norman, and essentially, GSMA is in London, but they have an office in Atlanta that actually plans the big convention, and they're doing the partnership with Barcelona. And John runs that operation out of Atlanta, but he told him he would commute from Charlotte to Atlanta, which says a lot about our quality of life as well. So I think I'm going to shut up, John, and just give you the microphone.
Great, thank you. Actually, I'm going to talk to him over here if I could.
I actually already told him to relocate from That was the very first thing I said, actually.
Can I take your phone?
Sure.
So, Councilman Howard, thank you very much. John Hoffman, GSMA, and as Councilman mentioned, I've been here since 1995, and actually I do kind of try and keep a low profile because I don't know why. Because then I have to come to things like this, which are great, but we're also pretty busy. So, Mark, I'll follow up. It's always good to go either first or last, because first you can set the agenda, or last you can crib off of everything else. So I didn't do any slides, which was nice, and I took from what you guys have said. So, Mark, you said there are almost 6.2 billion devices in the world, 5.2 billion. There's actually 3.4 billion people using mobile devices in the world. So we have a lot of growth opportunity. There's big opportunity in growth, not so much in Western culture, United States, Western Europe, but in Asia, Africa, Latin America, we still have a lot of growth opportunity. And that's boding very well for innovation. It's no longer voice. Frankly, if you have kids, you know, they don't talk on the phone anymore. They don't Facebook anymore. That's kind of old stuff. It changes about every 6 months. But the world is being transformed every day by mobility. As Councilman Howard mentioned, we run the Mobile World Congress. You've probably never heard of it. It's an industry event, so business to business only. A little bit about it. It's quite big and, dare I say, quite bold. A couple of statistics. It's big. It's like 2.6 million square feet of exhibition and conference. Now, when I was sitting over there, I tried to see how big it was compared to the Charlotte Convention Center. And first I went to Wiki, and it said it's about 6.5 times bigger than the Charlotte Convention Center, size-wise. Then I went to the Charlotte Convention Center site, and I got different data, and it said it's about 17.7 times bigger. So I don't know which one it is, but it's big. It's about 240,000 square meters of exhibition and conference. 85,000 people attended in February. Of that 85,000, 3,909 international press came. So we really do dominate. All of the media outlets are there. It's sort of like Consumer Electronics Show, but more for the technology and mobility and communication sector. It's very senior, so extremely high prices on purpose, because we only want the thought leaders coming. We have almost 70% C-level, from directors, CEOs, CTOs, across the world. They come from 201 countries, and one of the problems we have in Spain is parking private jets. So there are so many private jets come in. We found
Move it here. We can park them.
Yeah, we can park them here. We have so many jets coming in that they've now figured out how to park them. They can't figure out how to service them in time. One of the problems they have in Barcelona. I always worried about someone from the press asking me, how can you justify bringing 80,000 or 85,000 people together in a world where, as you can see, we can talk to Barcelona remotely. The effect on the world from a carbon standpoint is rather large. And so this past year, we held the largest, although the Guinness Book won't recognize you as a first, but we held the largest carbon neutral event ever staged. So a bit of a preview. In July, next month, I will go to Barcelona, and we will finalize the statistics for the world's largest carbon neutral trade show ever held. And what we did is we embarked on a program about 5 years ago to reduce our carbon footprint. The exhibition is actually only making up about 14% of the carbon footprint, so the stand builds, all of the activities that take place during the week, everything from the hotels that you stay to the transportation to and from the event. But 86% of it is made up of transport to and from Barcelona, from all parts of the world. And I always worried about how I would answer that question, which is with things like teleconferencing, why would you justify bringing folks together? Well, they want to network. They want to sit like you are today and talk to each other, because while it's really good to have technology, it's better to have people. And now we can honestly say we are completely carbon neutral. We offset all carbon of our footprint, calculated by a third party and then certified by another third party. And so we will announce in July the final statistics from our February event. It also has a pretty profound economic impact and jobs impact. So when we moved the Mobile World Congress from France to Barcelona, as Laurence mentioned, in a tender process in 2005, I joined the GSMA in 2007 to kind of oversee that. And as we were coming up for our renewal, tried to think about, if I was a government official, the mayor of Barcelona, the president of Catalonia, what would interest me? Well, there are kind of two things, right, Councilman? Money and jobs. So we hired a third party to calculate the economic impact and how many jobs we create. Jobs is around 8,000, I'm still doing the numbers from this past, about 8,000 part-time jobs, plus some full-time, but about 8,000 part-time jobs during the show. But the economic impact was really what floored me. Again, in July, we'll release our final numbers after they're calculated, but it's going to be in the neighborhood of around $330 million US dollars during that 1 week of the Mobile World Congress in Spain. So not including the transportation to and from, but just the spend that takes place building the stands, staying in the hotels, eating in the restaurants, taking the taxis, huge economic impact. And that led us then to the concept of the Mobile World Capital. Because as Laurence kind of explained, when she walked into my office in Atlanta on a Friday afternoon, about 4 or 5 years ago, and she said, our industry needs a capital. Our industry has a home, the Mobile World Congress, but it doesn't have a capital. And that evolved to what would be of interest. What would be of interest to the city outside of jobs and economic impact? It would be something to rally around, and the concept of the Mobile World Capital was born. It's a public-private partnership. It won't succeed if it's government, and it won't succeed if it's just private industry. As Laurence mentioned, change is hard. To get that concept rooted into a society, it takes folks like you, folks in government and folks in industry saying, we want to change. And while we had that at the highest levels in Spain, we didn't have that through the fabric. The Spanish fabric does not like change. They don't like entrepreneurship. They don't like to fail. If you ask young people in Spain, what they would like to do is work in a very safe environment. They don't want to go out and take chances like we do in the United States. So it was difficult to get it rooted, but as Laurence said, now we focus on entrepreneurship, the transformation of industry and public society, as well as the engagement, which I think is really quite interesting. I'm not going to go into too much of the detail, but I'm going to focus on a couple of things. Mark talked about schools and education. My kids kind of go from 21 down to 7, and I can tell you they're vastly different than the way they learn. My 7-year-old knows more about technology than probably many of you in this room, much more than I do. In Spain, I was meeting with President Mourasse of Catalonia just after he was elected, and as we walked out, he put his arm on my shoulder and he said, John, you know, we have this massive youth unemployment problem. Help me. And so we kind of thought about it for a while, and I went to Laurence and I said, we're going to start a program of teaching kids how to code. So, Mark, we will announce later this week a program of the best of the best. So we had our first contest in February where we announced the best kids programming, making videos. And this past year, during a program that started in September of last year, we'll graduate 6,000 kids in Barcelona who have now taken a class in programming. And we help them do that. We found a program out of the UK. We brought it down to Spain. We modified it, put it in Spanish, taught the teachers, and we now have, in our first year, wildly exceeded our expectations. So 6,000 kids will graduate from their first programming class. It's integrated in the school system, and we couldn't be happier. We're following that up with more and more activities next year, because we decided when President Mas challenged us to help Spanish society and kids, the best way is kind of what I call the McDonald's theory, which is you start them young and you transform them as they grow up. And if we don't transform our educational system to take advantage of what kids are interested in today, which is technology, they don't want to read books. Their attention span is so short. And frankly, if you give them the tools, they'll teach themselves. So we have an opportunity, just like we do in Spain, we have that opportunity here. Another aspect, Mark, that you highlighted, which I'll build on, the Internet of Things. Mark's right. There are a lot more things than there are us. I don't know how many there are. We have a research company, and we've said that there will be 20 billion connections of things by the year 2025. Ericsson, who also has a think tank, says that there'll be 50 billion Internet of Things connected by 2025. Now, I don't know who's right, but 20 or 50, it's big. It's big. So we're going to see those little chips in everything. Mark talked about the Nest. We're going to transform the way we live and work and play in society. So it's big and it's going to happen, whether we're a part of it or not. So the GSMA bestowed this title of the Mobile World Capital. What we wanted to do was create a year-long, 365-day program in Spain, in Barcelona, not just a one-week Mobile World Congress event. We wanted to focus it on business and society, not just a B2B show. And we bestowed that title on them. Were they the Mobile World Capital at the time? No, they weren't even close. But they bought the vision that they could transform what they do and how they do it. Dusseldorf is trying to do the same thing. A little closer to home, Atlanta is already working on programs like this. So there is competition out there, but it can be done. So if Charlotte really wants to transform, you can do it. It's not easy. You have to really want it. By showing up today, it shows me that you do. You have to set the vision. I think Councilman Howard has shown us his vision. We have to embrace it. And I do believe it has to be a public-private partnership. Based on what I've seen around the world, it doesn't work if it's just one side. If we have government and industry working together, we can do it. So Councilman Howard, very much thank you for getting us together, setting us your vision, and hopefully the next time we talk, we'll be talking not about what can we do, but what we are doing.
Most of you guys that know me know I've already hit them up for a few ideas. So any ideas, Mark, on maybe how Charlotte could get into this? If there's some partnering opportunities with Barcelona, just any thoughts you have on that?
Yeah, Barcelona is quite lucky. During our process, the Spanish elections took place. So we had the city of Barcelona supporting us. We had the Catalonian state, which is kind of like the state of North Carolina, and then we had the state of Spain. All three of them changed government. The good news was that all three of them put folks in that were even stronger in support of a concept like the Mobile World Capital, including Mayor Trias of Spain. He's a wonderful man, retired pediatrician, and he very much travels the world talking about what Barcelona is doing and how they can partner with cities like Charlotte. They have partnerships today with Shanghai in China, and they want to show the way. Part of our program is not just to work in Spain, but to let Spain take the lead and then share their experiences with other cities, both in Spain and then around the world. So we very much can draw upon that if you're interested. They love the United States. As a matter of fact, Mayor Trias's son once lived in North Carolina, and I believe in Charlotte, as a matter of fact. So he knows this place, and he likes it. He likes to visit here. So maybe we can talk him into coming over and spending some time with us.
All right, thank you all. We've got a few minutes for questions. So I understand that we're trending #1 on, well, we're good. So you guys are tweeting real good. We're trending #1. So that's good. Does this make sense to everybody? Am I the only one? Dots connecting? I mean, it's a game changer if you do this right. And we have all of the knowledge that we need in the city to do it right here, and probably more that we don't even know about yet. So I got time for a few questions, just a few. So I'm gonna start with this young lady, then I'm gonna go over here, and Lisa's coming with a microphone. And if you could keep the question short and direct it to somebody so they don't all feel like they have to answer it, that would help us so that we can get out on time.
My question is for Mark McDowell.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Miranda Hairston, and I represent KMP Consulting. We're a small business here that helps with human resources and connects businesses together. My question for you, Mark and John, you have a lot of potential to reach out to a lot of big businesses throughout the world. How do you prevent from creating a bubble? Because I hear the big dollar signs. And how do the small businesses get into your bubble?
You know, it's an interesting question. I feel like the good thing about mobile is that every day the pie is getting bigger. There's more than enough to go around. It's really available for individuals and small businesses and large businesses that want to retool and go after the opportunity. That's my short answer.
Yeah, I'd follow that up with saying, actually, small businesses have sometimes a leg up on big business. They're much more nimble, react quickly. In today's world, if you don't have a mobility strategy, you're kind of screwed. You don't have to be fully executing, but at least you have to have a strategy. So small, big, medium size, they're all successful. Maybe the hardest part is getting in. Sometimes it just takes an introduction by the right person.
I want to add one more thing, and I'll be real quick. I think we should protest pen and paper any opportunity we get. Next time you go to the doctor, and they hand you a clipboard and a pen and 5 pages of stuff to fill out, tell them you're going to get a different doctor. You should be doing that electronically and cutting down hours of waste. So in small businesses, just think mobile from the beginning. Don't just put the pen and paper away.
One thing I'll add too is that that's what I think Barcelona is doing. They've actually introduced, what I heard John say is that they were bringing a convention to town and they were leaving. They decided to pull the public into that conversation. So as a city, if we could do that, we could actually pull all industry, school, health, everybody into this conversation and become the same type of model that they're trying to become. That's another way we can expand the bubble in Charlotte. All right, so question here, and then I got Erica.
I'm John Gallus. I publish Greater Charlotte Biz Magazine. My question is to Laurence. Can you describe how you motivated your community to get behind this? Did it have anything to do with the terrorist attacks to the trains there, or was it separate from that entirely?
So, well, there's 2 phases to this. There's the first phase, which I call the euphoria phase, which, you know, when you win a bid, the community motivates itself. And like John will tell you, when we announced Barcelona as the winner after a process of almost 18 months of bidding, I think that the community was very, very happy and well together. That was inherent to the process. Then in its second phase, after the euphoria came down and people looked at each other and said, oh, really, what are we really doing? We're finding that it's very important to communicate and to explain and build these, if you will, these bridges of one little thing that can be done with each other. The other thing is recognition is extremely important. So we have programs now of using our brand and the Mobile World Capital logo on endorsing other activities. That is very important as well. And the last but very obvious thing is that, it's a matter of people. So we try to find, to build our community starting from the center outwards. And there are a few people that we call our ambassadors. There are the people we spend the most time with, and it expands from there. I hope it answers your question.
Good morning, Erica Ellis Stewart, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Board of Ed. I've spoken with many of my school board colleagues across the country. Many of them are working on community-based broadband or community-based Wi-Fi, which I'm a huge proponent of. And I'm hearing from them that they are running into roadblocks at the state level, either with their General Assembly or their state assembly. And I guess I'm asking, do you all know why they're running into those types of roadblocks? And do you have any feedback on what can be done to move beyond that? And are you seeing anything in Charlotte that will help us get there?
Boy, I wish I had an insightful answer for you, but I don't know.
Yeah, most of these guys actually operate outside of the city, so we're going to pull them back in to help us with that kind of stuff. Another question? Okay.
Good morning. I'm Alan Gordon, founder of Alan Gordon Immigration Law. We have a program called Immigration Through Innovation. This question is directed to Mr. Khurjekar, and the others can chime in. What do you see, I'm assuming that you came to the United States through an immigration process at one time. So what do you see as far as innovation in the United States, growing entrepreneurship and innovation and the immigration process? Because back in 2007, Mayor McCrory, now governor, had me chair a commission called the Immigration Study Commission, which was focused not just on illegal immigration, but legal, like what to do with H-1Bs. And it came out a very positive thing for 22 points that we promoted. So I want to hear your comments now on what you see in 2014.
I'm not an expert on the topic, but I can just talk about my personal experience. I mean, I came to this country in 1994, almost 20 years ago to the month probably. And I went through the usual, right? I came here for grad school, got my engineering degree in Philadelphia, went to work for Bell Labs, and applied for my H-1 visa. My wife and I, we applied for the green card after that, and we are fortunate to have become part of the innovation ecosystem here over the last 20 years. And now I see many people who are also in the process. I've seen them over waves over the last 5, 10, 15 years. And people talk a lot about kind of the intersection, and since that's my day of the morning, the intersection between innovation and immigration. I personally firmly believe there is a big intersection there, because when you have immigrants coming into this country, which is what the power of the strength of the innovation ecosystem is. Why is it that Silicon Valley continues to be a formidable location where you are getting new things? Because you have a diverse population there coming from all over the world. I think Charlotte has that benefit too. You have a diverse population here coming from all over the country and also the world. So again, I'm not an expert in policy, I'm not an expert in law, I'm not an expert in all of that stuff, but personal experiences tell me that the strength in economic growth comes from innovation. Innovation comes from immigration. Why? Because that is a source of diversity, and when you have diversity, new things are bound to happen, because I believe in the intersections of different fields to create new things. So again, that's a very personal answer.
We're going to do 2 more questions.
Good morning. I'm Bolin McClung from Pineville. And first, thanks to the Observer for letting you publish that article Sunday. That's how I found out about this. Back in the early 80s, when I discovered the Commodore and started learning programming, I tried to interest my son into it, and he only said, Pong, really cool. So I think this is for Mark, and it could be for John. It says, what age did your children start coding, and how has it helped them in school? Thank you.
Yeah, John and I both have elementary school-aged kids. The answer is 3rd grade. There's a really cool program that CMS has adopted called Codable, with the K, and it lets kids almost play a video game, but to win the video game, you have to use programming concepts like loops and variables and conditional, if statements. So they're not actually writing code, but they're thinking like a programmer. And I think that third grade's too late. I'll just say that. I would have enjoyed it in first.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the same. Mark and I traded some information about a group I found up in the lake area. I also have read that kind of between 5 and 8 is sort of the optimal time to start coding. Very simple, but you can actually start coding. You don't realize you're actually coding, but if you start it then, boom, the world's at your door.
And I think the earlier they start, the better, because I have 2 boys, 14 and 10, and it is easier for the younger one to do it than the older one. So.
Terry?
Hello, I'm Terry Shook. I'm an architect. Fascinating discussion. Thank you, David, for bringing this together. One observation I would have is perhaps I would say the compensating balance, the other side of this. I note that the young lady is speaking from Barcelona, which is one of the most livable cities in this entire world. And so I think that's something I would hope as this discussion goes forward that Charlotte doesn't lose sight of. I remember back to the 70s when a young Hugh McCall would talk about bringing and headquartering the largest bank in America here in Charlotte, and we'd better get about building a real city that someone wanted to come to for the experience. Thank goodness we had great leadership like Mayor Gant that was a partner in that process to live in the city we have today. And I would say then that it's no less of a challenge. As we enter this new mobile world, all these great things we've talked about, let's not lose focus about the city that we live in, the places where experience happens, which give people the reason that they want to connect and to have these mobile devices. I invite the panelists to talk about that.
Well, I'm kind of an easy one because I've been commuting since 1994. 1995, I was moved here. I was with Bell South at the time, came from Europe, and built and managed the first singular system in the Carolinas. Then got recruited away a couple years later, but I didn't move away. So I worked Washington, London, California, Chicago, London, Atlanta, and I do it from Charlotte. I'm also an architect by profession, retired. It's a very livable city. It's a very livable area, and I've stayed.
Anybody else? One more question. Well, I did.
I mean, I've been here only, less than a year, so for me it's hard to answer the question, but I'll just make one comment. People tell me here that once you come here, you want to go back. You don't want to go back. And it's too early to tell, but my kids don't want to go back. They love their school. They love to be here in Charlotte. They enjoy, having the longer days, the longer, warmer days to play their sports. So let's see. I'm liking it.
Thank you very much. My name is David Harris. I'm a civil engineer. I'm also new to Charlotte. 1 year ago tomorrow, I'll be here. I guess this might be a piggyback on the question, on this last question, but as a civil engineer, I was wondering if, I'd like to hear a little bit about what you see, and as an architect as well, about the intersection of the mobile access and technology with the built environment and the planned environment. And I know Councilmember Howard is involved in some of those things as well.
Well, trying to predict the future is always tough. Very few of us, I think Jobs maybe was about the only one I've run across that had a chance at it. The rest of us probably going to fail. I don't know about your houses, but I moved into a new house, and it was kind of state-of-the-art at the time. Had a lot of cables running through it, and you connected your devices by plugging them in first. And now, frankly, it's a bunch of wasted stuff in my walls. It's all wireless. What's it going to be tomorrow? I don't know. But it's not going to be what we're using today. It's going to be better, faster, cheaper, and more ubiquitous. So technology very much is shaping the way we live and work. I think what we have to do is be open to that change, and you'd be surprised on how many folks aren't. They're probably not representative of mass society.
I'll add one thing. I think one of the final frontiers of basic wireless infrastructure is indoor location. Because right now, your cell phone knows its location when you're out and you can see the sky. but when you're indoors, the GPS is very inaccurate, or it doesn't work at all. It's a big issue for public safety, because 80% of 911 calls are made from cell phones today, and they're not sending the location data. So there's efforts underway on a regulatory level and on a commercial level. Some of you may have heard of the iBeacon product from Apple, for example, to outfit buildings with beacon technology so that your location can be determined very accurately indoors. And you can control that, so you can turn it on or off for privacy reasons. But it would be interesting to see commercial construction plan for indoor location capability, because that's one of the final frontiers. Most of the other fundamental technologies kind of been knocked out, but that one still has not.
Can we give the panel a round of applause, please? Just doing some housekeeping. You never like to do one of these without recognizing your elected colleagues. We have former Mayor Gant in the room with you. Thank you, Mayor Gant. A former colleague and good friend, James Mitchell, in the back, former colleague. Current elected officials, I have school board member Erica Ellis Stewart, who spoke a few minutes ago. I had Al Austin, and I have my colleague John Autry. Always dangerous when you do that. Did I miss anybody? Okay. Just to close, and we've run over about 5 minutes, so thank you for indulging me. Tell you a story. Tell you a story about James and Florence Oliphant. They decided back in 1927 to move to Charlotte. They packed up their 7 kids, and they got on the road. They moved up here, and they moved into a little 2-bedroom house over on Dunbar Street, which is roughly over near where the stadium is now. James moved up here to work for the railroads. His wife, Florence, actually stayed home and took care of the kids. They went on to raise 4 boys and 3 girls. 2 of the girls went on to college. One went on to work for Dr. Green. If you guys have been around here for a while, you know where the MIC building is down on Brevard and 4th Street, 3rd Street. And they came here looking for a better life for their children. They set out in 1927. And today, that young lady who was a nurse in that for Dr. Green went on to have a son, and he had a son named David Howard, and now he stands in front of you guys today. My point to you is that they started thinking about what their family needed then. They started thinking about what the future of their family would be back in 1927, how to make their lives better. That's what this conversation is about for me. How do we make sure that the lives for our children and our grandchildren are better, and that we're thinking about it now? So what I plan to do over the next couple of series in this rethink world that I'm creating, and it's still evolving, my friends that are helping me with it, we keep asking ourselves, what is it? And it took off so fast, we're not sure what it is, to be honest, but I know it's something there, and somebody needs to press the conversation about what Charlotte will be. And I think one of the things that you can see is that there's a space in this technology world where mobile technology lives that may be something we can do something with. We have examples already. And the reason why I pressed so many of you guys to come today, and I really laid in hard on a few of my friends from Time Warner and from Microsoft and from AT&T to be in the room, is because you guys are part of that conversation. The chamber has to be part of that conversation. We don't do this without you all. So next steps for me, I have an intern, Ms. Ashley Williams, has been up here at the front table typing away, capturing all of this. We plan to turn this into somewhat of a white paper that talks about what the public role could be, what the private role could be, and then I'm going to present it. Where it makes sense, I'll take it to my colleagues at City Council, and where it makes other sense, I'll take it to my friends at the chamber and other places. But I think it's worth a conversation, maybe even worth putting a blue ribbon committee of some sort together that we got 3 members up here already. So with that, thank you all for coming out. There's still food in the back, and look forward to seeing you at the next Rethink Salon. Thank you, Laurence. Everybody say bye.
He lives it.
Just stand up right here.